Hey everyone, Angelo here, Hollywood filmmaker, greatest screenwriter in the history of the world, recovering homeless guy. Been doing a lot of writing lately. Just got finished a writing session. After a few weeks of writing multiple page one rewrites of my homeless story, a screenplay just inspired by my time being homeless, and starting a new one again. Using the automatic writing method, basically just kind of feeling it out. The notes I make are not so much ideas for what to write, but sort of steps to exploring what are the characters, what do they really feel, and what is the story in me. It's not trying to brainstorm it or outline it. It's literally just like sort of figuring out the path of, what do I feel about this, and who are the characters, and sort of like empathizing with them, feeling who they are. And it's an intense process, but it works best when it's just joyous and light. And I spent a while writing, and I'm like, okay, it's not getting as fun after a few pages, 8 pages. I'm getting sort of rigid. I have to be loose and walk. And first I had a little spaghetti. I got a belly full of spaghetti with Alfredo sauce and salmon and green onions and basil. And I'm just thinking about the state of the world and everything I'm learning about. What's this here? The old Black History Month. Cool. Oh, missed it. It said it was an August event. It's September now. Just how much it gets at me emotionally to see people struggling financially, to see the waste of how this capitalist system moves around people and resources. For instance, we have a tiny little sidewalk for people that the city does not maintain. I have reported that. You see where it's lifted up there. Wait, am I pointing at it right? There, I think. I can't tell if I'm pointing at a shadow. No. Anyways, I'm going to walk up to it. But all this free space for cars, just put your car there, you get a free space for it. No free housing, virtually no free housing, except in jail or prison. And that is extremely profitable for prison corporations and armaments companies and the companies that make slave labor with prisoners. But meanwhile, it literally, I was reading an article about this, literally takes over 10 years to get a sidewalk fixed in LA, at least if you're not in a rich neighborhood. So there's the one I've reported to 311, the exact coordinates I report, or the address. I don't think you can report coordinates. And that's how we prioritize this city. Nobody can figure it out. Literally, like city council members, showing the POV of my feet. Oh, and but basically it's like they can't manage to pass a tax that would actually raise revenue to fix sidewalks, and property owners, homeowners don't want a tax of even a few dollars to pay for it. How backwards we are, our priorities, where cars get priority everywhere, and you think it's for your benefit because it feels like freedom. Well, you're mobile with a car. It's just normal. And we don't question more deeply, how do we organize a society? And I was thinking specifically with how sad it is, the housing situation, how many homeless we have, how demeaned and vilified homeless people are, how any one homeless person, people who hate homeless people use them as if all homeless people are responsible for what any one homeless person does, or just how a homeless person makes them feel. They don't even have to really do anything. They can, the housed person can just say, oh, they make me uncomfortable, they're gross, they're just high in public. Like, what do you think people do in homes? Do you think they don't get high? Or where housed people do drugs? I've lived with so many people that were doing hard drugs. That's how I lost my apartment in Koreatown. Beautiful place, man. I miss that. But I was thinking too, how sad it is that just as adults, by and large, people have to live with strangers just to make rent. Like, you have to live with strangers who are usually not very well house trained. In my experience, almost never are. In fact, the two people, I can honestly say, the two people who were the most clean that I ever lived with were both abusive predators. How weird is that? So one, what's his name? The pastor that sexually harassed me, William Wagner. God, he was awful. And I oh my God, it was so gross. He caught me on the way that he kept pestering me every day for lunch and dinner. I didn't want, after the first lunch I went to with him, I was like, okay, whatever. Even though I was tired, I was not really even into it. I was working 7 days a week, a lot of stuff going on. He starts telling me all this wacko stuff about how women cause most divorce, and his son is gay, and so when his son was little, he put his son in the hospital to try and make him straight, but after 4 days he was still gay, so he took him out because that's when he realized being gay was genetic. Extremely homophobic guy. That weirded me out enough. I didn't even know like what I was hearing, except I knew, I was like, whoa, I've never heard anyone who actually did this. I've heard of it, someone putting their kid in the hospital to make him straight, but 2 weeks in, he caught me walking to the bathroom to shower, and he lived with me, and he said, hello, Angelo, like, can I get you lunch today? I said no. He said, can I get you dinner? I said no. He said, can I get in the shower with you? I yelled no. And he said, I'm just kidding. And he wasn't kidding. It was so disgusting, and for a long time I tried to just kind of laugh it off. It was like, oh, he's just a creepy old man. No, that was like, I talked to a therapist about it once, and she said that's like, well, not that specifically, another incident where about a week later, he left out. Some people are walking by, so I don't want to say it too loud. He finessed me into a situation where he had me help set up his giant Christmas figurines called a creche of, like Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus on his front patio. And to get on his patio, you had to walk through his office. He left on his office desk letters of hand-drawn pornography that he had of men having sex, and with like the gross graphic love letters in them for me to find. I know because the first few trips through, they weren't there, and then when I walked through, they were. I wish I had the presence of mind to film it, and I would not have wanted to confront him about it, but to film them and then have evidence that like he's a creep and show it and post it publicly, and because he was a retired pastor, and send it to his church. What a horrible man. But him, and then this other god-awful woman, Hungarian fascist I lived with for 6 weeks after I left Koreatown. But I was just thinking how sad it is. People have to live with strangers. They're so demoralized. So many people are just bad people to live with. But the Hungarian fascist, also the cleanest person I've ever lived with, where like I never even had to deep clean like I do now, because she was just so on it. Like I never had a chance to. Like I don't even think she really wanted me to. She was horribly abusive and weird, and I think she wanted, unfortunately, she wanted me, sexually as well. And this was her twisted way of like creating intimacy, was like constantly hovering over me, giving me weird attention, and just then finally it just broke down into her yelling and insulting me and stuff. But tenants, all you young tenants out there too, like you should realize how totally unacceptable this is, and how much power tenants have to scare landlords. I think back to when I made my video about my place in Annandale. I put the whole address on there and did a walkthrough, like a fake walkthrough tour of the home with music, saying how bad it was and how my landlord didn't fix stuff. and it got like 120,000 views. My landlord got really angry. She found out later that day. She was like threatening me. She wanted to come over. I should have just said, come on over, and I should have filmed it. But eventually her mom and dad or father-in-law, I forget, wanted to make peace and fix everything. I'm like, oh, this is what it took. Getting a viral video that humiliated you all. And my landlord was a total bully there. She was so crude, and she was rich, like, or appeared rich. I don't really know if she was rich, but she lived in luxury a mile down the road. But tenants, you have so much power you don't realize. So much organizing power. Do you have any idea the power you have? Not just organizing your building, not just organize with your neighborhood. What if we had worldwide organization, or at the very least countrywide, statewide? Here in LA, we have the LA Tenants Union. I've never walked down this street. Why not just walk down here? I'm just going on a walk to clear my head, because I was getting too like rigid and locked in on like, oh, it has to be this way when I'm writing, and I'm like, that's when it's not fun, and I'm getting tunnel vision when there's no need to, there's no reason to. You got to be loose and like let stuff happen, just almost like letting yourself fall and trusting the next element of the story is going to arrive. Do you all realize how powerful you could be if you started making serious demands of landlords? And I know how scared so many tenants are to do that, and younger people, like I remember my old warehouse job at OnTrack, they would get excited when I said we should get better pay and all. They're like, yeah. And when I would try talking to people about organizing, unionizing, they got terrified, like so scared. I'm like, oh God, this is ridiculous. Like how screwed over we all are, because everyone's so scared, and especially for the younger people who haven't been tested in life as much and haven't seen what I've seen, where it's like you put up with so much, you just get sick of it. So much neglect, so much disrepair, so much exploitation at work and from your landlord. It's not worth it. Like what, just being compliant year after year? I'm 40 now. Like how ridiculous is it that I have to give away so much of my life to work to pay, and I'm lucky, about a third of my rent. I'm lucky it's that low, or a third of my income in rent. And I'm lucky also the landlord's pretty good about fixing stuff. Like they're actually on it. But I still have to have roommates to survive, and most people cannot even get the luxury of paying as little as a third of their rent. Okay, kind of a dead end here. Or a third of their income, sorry, in rent. Now they would understandably be scared, and also scared of going homeless. Now for me, that fear wasn't that high because I was homeless when I was working at the warehouse, and I chose to be homeless. I had to, but I chose to, because I was also sick of paying rent, and my sort of progressive leftist socialist ideas were starting to come into fruition, and I'm still learning like it's all new in a way, and learning about history and about workers' rebellions and history of people liberating themselves, peoples liberating themselves. I'm learning a lot about communism, and I encourage you all to read about it. Like communist propaganda is so powerful in this country. Why? Because it is absolutely terrifying when workers get organized and say, we demand control of our own destinies. We demand control over our workplace, like one worker, one vote. We should be paid what we actually earn, and not paid a small wage out of what we earn, and our bosses get paid what we earn. So the harder you work, the richer your boss gets. We should reorganize society more based around communities and livable places and public transportation, walkable cities. We shouldn't have to spend so much of our free time doing pain in the ass chores and things that we have to do to survive, like get our cars fixed, make healthcare appointments, do basic things that like we could have such better solutions for. How much of your time is spent going around picking up stuff you need for chores, doing laundry? These all sound so basic, like what does that have to, you have to do that. See, that is how brainwashed people are with capitalism, thinking, oh, you don't want to just work, you want this utopia where everybody does everything for you. No, it's called collectivization in some places. Like I've been studying how in the Soviet Union they had a lot of this like planned communities where you had communal kitchens and childcare, etc. Like, and they built out for public transportation to be great. And then in Moscow at least, they have amazing metro stations, and to this day they have a great metro system. I don't know if it runs as well as before. I'm sure there are things that could be better about it. They have a big radial system there, meaning you don't just have to go to the downtown choke points to transfer like you do in most of LA and in the DC area where I'm from, but you can actually like circle the city and transfer lines that way. And especially in DC, it's a really big problem, the overcrowding at the choke points like Roslyn Station, Union Station, Metro Center, where you have all these lines converging and people transferring, like doubling back to maybe go a different direction, or like go sort of back the same way they came from, but the line they were on doesn't go there. In LA, that's even, well, the crowding issue isn't as bad like at Metro Center or Union Station, because just not as many people ride the metro. But we're getting there. But the scariest thing for capitalists is for workers to just have education, to just know how powerful you are when we're organized. That's why it's so important that they constantly try and put this downward pressure on workers never to organize, never talk about your wages with each other, constantly be spread out, pushed further out into suburban sprawl, so you don't see your neighbors, you don't understand each other's pain, you don't realize how much you have in common with each other and how your struggles are so similar. So much of what we deal with stemming from being overworked, underpaid, and our cities built for the benefit of automakers. And the streets, as you can see, are pretty much completely empty. We got one car parked there, so somebody just parks their car, walks away, for the benefit of Elon Musk and Amazon to get free infrastructure for deliveries, and Toyota, Ford, Chevrolet, etc. All these companies that get so much free infrastructure, and you think it's freedom. In reality, life is so hard because of, in large part because of this, because we build out so much infrastructure for cars, we don't have as much space for housing, we need more space for parking, we need big urban freeways to get all the cars through, because cars take up so much space. And so if you live in the suburbs where there might not even be sidewalks and there isn't enough density to support public transportation, there might be a bus an hour, if you're basically prisoner in your home unless you have a car. And therefore you're conditioned to think that cars equal freedom. That's how brainwashing works. That's how your exploitation is normalized. Just imagine if workers, not just in one trade, but across industries, got educated on their rights, organized, understood the steps that other peoples have taken in order to demand better working conditions, better rights, more time off, better living conditions. Why do we have guaranteed free parking in this country, but we don't have free housing? What, your car needs a place to live more than you do? If we got rid of a lot of parking and just built housing, you realize you wouldn't have to get a car to travel around a lot. You could get a car if you want, but you wouldn't need one if you just lived in places like where that parking lot is, where you could just shop, where you could just have all the places you need to go in your neighborhood. And if you want to go out beyond that, you have a car. You have good public transportation, good bus connections, streetcars, metros. But the way we condition people, and this is how I was conditioned, was to think public transportation is just there for the poor. It's just there for people who can't quite figure out how to make enough money. It's there for lesser people, disproportionately black and brown people, people with disabilities, the homeless, like me, the elderly, people who are too young to drive. And therefore, we don't properly invest in it. We don't think, oh, public transportation can actually be world class. It can be outstanding. It can be a great experience, liberating, freeing to be able to walk on the public, the metro or the bus anytime you want, to be able to get anywhere you want within the city within 15 to 30 minutes. I was looking, for instance, here in LA, I wanted to go to a show that's 15 miles away. And I looked at it both if I drove, like on Google Maps, and public transportation. There's no metro line that goes out there. I'd have the closest metro line, it terminates well before this venue. And it basically worked out to this: 15 miles. If I were to drive, it would take an hour. So in other words, I'd travel at an average of 15 miles an hour. If I were to take public transportation, it would take 2 hours. So I'd be traveling at an average of 7.5 miles an hour. So in other words, public transportation is so unviable, it's so slow, that people resort to driving. And because so many people resort to driving to get around, the roads are clogged up and congested with cars. So you're paying $40,000 maybe for a car, about $10,000 a year. And in California, the insurance is way high. When I came to LA, my insurance doubled, literally, more than doubled. I was paying $70 a month for my 05 Honda Civic. It jumped to $150. I was like, holy crap, I knocked it down to like 120, maybe 130. And then it was destroyed in a car crash. And I was homeless at the time. So we're burdening ourselves and burdening the city with all this expensive infrastructure. Look how the cars get stuck here. You don't even have that many cars. Now granted, you have construction, but you could fit 100 bikes here. They'd all get through the light. Maybe 1,000 bikes might be a bit much, probably not. If you had a bus, you could get 50 people on the bus. You probably don't have 50 cars here. The buses don't run often enough. Why not? One big reason, we don't pay bus drivers enough. Bus drivers get paid about half what... Oh, this is beautiful. Beautiful view. Bus drivers get paid in LA and the whole region about half what police do. So that shows you what our priorities are. We don't want people moving unless it's in the back of a police car, and only very intermittently. And the police can only carry a few people at a time. And if they carry you somewhere, it's to the little free housing we have, the jail. In other words, a torture dungeon. So that's what we prioritize. It's a matter of values. Whether we, do I have the light? Can I get it? Can I make it? I don't know. This light lasts long enough. I don't know if I want to try it. And look how unwalkable this is, how unpleasant it is. I don't know if you can feel it. Like, this is a massive intersection. The cars are so loud here, just the tire noise. The road is mostly empty. So we got one person in a vehicle, one person. You see what I mean? We're making a great auto executives, oil executives, insurance executives. For people, not so much. So, young tenants, young people, it really bothers me to know how much they have to suffer going through like what I did, and the stupidity of not doing better for them. Like, okay, yeah, I went through that, of having crappy roommates, being broke, working low-paying jobs, being exploited by people who were, no matter how much I worked, I was never going to have as much money as them. Living with people I couldn't stand. the hell is that whistling sound, that whining sound? And knowing that, okay, now young people are going through the same thing because we haven't learned any better. And it's my generation too, the millennials that haven't done any better. We need to organize. We need to actually communicate with each other. And here's the thing, the other thing that really gets at me, makes me emotional. First of all, seeing older people having to work and take public transportation to or from their jobs. I see their uniforms, somebody honking over nothing. They were just behind a car and the car didn't go fast. They tried to cut them off, like turning left. And like they were trying to go cut left around the car, and then they just honked at the person in front of them. Like, what are they supposed to do? And it's free parking too. Got to make sure you have free parking. Not free hot green space by and large in LA, but free parking. We need that. And okay, I'm gonna cross this intersection there. I would want my mom to cross here by herself, and I know she wouldn't. She would not feel safe doing that. You know, her vision's not great. It's never really been great. And she's doing well, and we really want to plan her to visit here. We're trying to make it happen. What I was saying, what gets me, not only older people, seeing them having to work, like, why do they have to work? If they want to, great, but that's the thing. They don't really have a choice for the most part if they want to, because they just like it. Like, yeah, I've seen stories of 100-year-old lawyer still working because he loves his job. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. It's so sad. Like, why do we do that? It's such disrespect to our elders. And we shouldn't even wait for our leaders to make things better for them. They don't want to. That's why they're our leaders. We should organize and figure out how to demand it, and know that is so scary to our leaders and our capitalist owners and the executives who own the few companies that own most of America, and also that exploit the third world and the global south around the world. We need to end U.S. imperialism. That's a big part of it. Do not think the struggle of American workers is limited to us, and that we can just continue exploiting other countries and stealing their resources and extracting their resources, bombing them. We cannot. But why am I waiting at a red light here? There's no reason to wait. Not just the older people, but what really got me, I saw somewhere, it was on the street the other day, I forget, younger people working, in their 20s now. And it's amazing how as I get older, adults look like kids to me in a way. They baby faced. I forget, the guy, young man, he must have been 25 or so, working some kind of job on the street. It might have been construction, or window cleaning or something, or even landscaping, it might have been, I forget. And he was just oh, excuse me, good morning, whatever. I was walking past him. I'm I'm not royalty. He shouldn't have to. He was just being nice. Granted, it's a nice thing to do, but I'm I'm not royalty. I don't want to be someone oh, excuse me, whatever. I'm why is he working a job that I know is not paying what he earns, that I know doesn't provide him his own place to stay? And I don't mean the employer themselves should provide it. I mean that does not provide adequate compensation to pay some lord for land. Why do we pay these lords? The Soviets had the right idea of get rid of the lords and require housing for everybody. They built millions of units of housing for people. That's what I'm learning. I just felt so bad. Here's a guy who's gonna be working, if he's lucky, working and working and working, and no matter how much he makes, he will never be well off, in all likelihood. Yeah, some jobs you get promoted, you get a trade or whatever, you might, but no matter what, he's being exploited. Unless he's making what he earns. Now, think about how I worded that. What he earns is not what he's making. What he earns mostly goes to his employer. Think about it. There's a profit, or there's a revenue that he makes, and the employer, the capitalist who owns the firm, the business, it might be online or the factory, the processing facility, whatever it is, they extract most of his income or his earnings, and he gets a small amount of it. I just felt terrible. I'm like, this shouldn't happen. This is not right. And we don't understand that in capitalism. We think, oh, you're working a low-wage job because it pays in experience. That's the excuse. Yeah, I know the brainwashed excuses for that, because I used to give them too. I was a conservative and an anarcho-capitalist libertarian, and I was all about that. And I thought it was virtuous, and I thought it was just, and I didn't know what I was talking about. And I certainly didn't know anything about socialism or communism. And I'm like, not only that young person deserves to make the totality of what they earn, they deserve guaranteed housing, quality housing, their own place if they want, which most people do want. Some people do want to live with friends. That's fine. But their own place, and not just single family homes. We deserve more apartments, more communal living spaces. We deserve more options, because right now you cannot build apartments in most places. And Karen Bass, that oh my God, just pretending like, oh, liberal, I support the people. She is right now currently asking Governor Gavin Newsom, a scumbag, to veto a bill that would legalize building 4 to 7 story apartments within a half mile of metro stations. So in other words, she's against housing that is not necessarily going to be affordable, but at least lets people live close to where they can commute without a car. She doesn't want that. Why? She's been captured by the homeowners associations that don't want apartments in their neighborhoods, largely for racist reasons. They don't want potentially poor black and brown people living near them, but also they don't want their property values in any way to be impacted by other people having the ability to live near them, and apartments may do that. So in America, we just have laws where you're like allowed a legal right to self-defense against people living near you. Like, you have the legal right to protect yourself, to be rich, and other people have no right themselves to have access to the same places to live that you do. It's incredible. What a great system. So people, what am I encouraging? If there's one simple point I'm encouraging, talk to each other about this. I can't believe how many people just shy away from these conversations, or uncomfortable about them, or don't want to do anything. I'm like, you realize the reason we don't want to is because such fear has been put in us about the possibility of homelessness, of malnutrition, of exposure, because were we to ever organize, it would be so intolerable for capitalist owners. It would be so unacceptable to them, like the homeowners, to lose any of their massive amounts of wealth. So they want to make an omnipresent threat of your existence being ruined so that they can remain wealthy. Karl Marx talked about this as one of the contradictions of capitalism, and there's so many of them. The fact that workers provide so much of the labor yet have so little power. Marx, it was interesting when I hear about people saying he wanted to abolish private property, and they don't know what that means. They think it means the words the way we use it. It means capital, like factories and stuff, and abolish people who have gained it through ill-gotten means, basically, which is capitalist exploiters. He said, people think, I read this quote, he said, like, people think it's so shocking to ask for abolishing private property until you realize that the vast majority, or even though the vast majority of people in capitalist nations do not have private property. Like, I'm not a factory owner, I'm not a business owner, I'm a sole proprietor, if you want to discuss that. So in a way, I am a socialist. I get paid what I earn. But people are so indoctrinated into fearing what would happen if we just said, okay, like, we're actually going to demand better. We can actually have nice places to live and reasonable lives and good health care. They actually want us to believe that like the worst case scenarios will happen to us anytime we ask for that. And so they never like what's this on the side here? Oh, I missed this show. Oh, interesting. So they never have to explicitly threaten people. They do that too, but they rarely have to. So that employees can't say, well, you know, you retaliated against me for reporting, safety violations and stuff. They don't have to retaliate against you directly and explicitly in any one circumstance, because you know damn well how easily you could be fired for any reason. And from there, it's harder to get another job, etc. Cascading effects. So 1, talk to each other. 2, study, learn. Learn about the history of workers' struggles. My God, like it's been such an education for me, and I'm just barely getting started. I'm still like learning this stuff and unlearning like things I thought I knew, and a lot of things I don't know, I'm not sure of. But study communism, study socialism. If you think they're wrong, you'll have everything you need to think they're wrong. It's not going to just magically cause you to be a socialist or communist. Learn what those things are. If you want to oppose them, you'll find what you need to oppose them. Some of the stuff I cannot understand, the stuff, dialectical materialism, I'm like, sure, fine. Maybe it's all true, maybe none of it's true, I don't know. But like, you're talking about stories and like how the relationships between different aspects of capitalist production work, then it gets a lot clearer to me. So study. Look at YouTube channels that talk about communism. There's one, Non-Compete, that explicitly talks about it. There are others that they don't always necessarily mention it, but they touch on it, and you can tell they come from, in all likelihood, a Marxist perspective. There's Bad Empanada. He's great. What are the other channels? Oh, Muna Oi, OI, and she is the partner of the person that runs Non-Compete. So you find both channels, and they both have great content. What else? What other channels? I can't think right now. I don't know. Red Pen, I think, is one I just found. And also, like, read Vladimir Lenin's Letter to American Workers. That's the one communist tract basically I've read so far. I want to read a lot more. I want to read the Communist Manifesto and whatever else I can get my hands on. I love reading, and I don't have enough time to read. That's another problem with capitalism. And I read so much of fiction. I love reading fiction. But people, get educated. Like, you have no idea how powerful it is to just be educated about this stuff that we've been brainwashed on. You can read about Soviet Union history. There's so much inspiring about it. They're just vilified. Now, that's not to say they did everything good. They absolutely did horrible things. Like, that's what I'm reading too about people who are communist and who like talk about Stalin. Like, you can see, like, okay, he lifted tens of millions of people out of pre-industrial, an agrarian society, and he also did horrible things. You can absolutely see all that. The problem is, for us in the West, we just want to create this cartoonish, villainous version of people where, like, to look into what they did at all is almost seditious. And it's not to be contrarian and say, oh, everything they did is great. That's wrong. Absolutely wrong. But take time to study. Like, it's amazing. It's interesting. And see how much you get inspired by learning about how workers and tenants organize and struggled for better conditions. So, all right, comrades, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Bye.